All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. All right, so I'm going to go over just a couple things before we get started on the practice activities for today. I got all of the assignments graded and turned back to you guys that we have so far. Okay, so all of those, your grades should be accurate right now, leading into the midterms. If you did get a 0 on something for an assignment that you didn't turn in, you still can get those turned in, all right? So I'll accept those. So please, if you didn't get something turned in, get it done and submitted, okay? And I'll get that graded and give you credit for that, all right? So if your grade's not looking too good right now, you still got time to complete those missing assignments and get that grade up, okay? All right, so this course I don't have a midterm exam or anything like that, so should be good. So yeah, Matt, you got a question?
Just a quick thing, because I know that I do have assignments that haven't been turned in, and for the most part, the reason for that is they show closed on my end.
Okay. I'll go through and double check. I think the quizzes might be closed, but I'll just make sure that everything's open back up so you can submit the assignments.
Okay.
So yeah. So yeah. Please get the old assignments turned in. All right. So I'll still accept those up until about the last 3 weeks or so of class. So. But don't wait on those because a lot of what you're doing in those early assignments are you're gonna build on that for these next few chapters that we're gonna be doing over the course of the next month. So, all right. So today, let's see what we got here. We're gonna do some practice activities in chapter 6. All right, the only thing that'll be due today, at the end of the week by Sunday, is that web project approval assignment. So I'm gonna share my screen now. Okay, all right. So that's this project right here, or this assignment. Okay, so look through the documents that I have there to help you get that assignment completed, and then just have that done and submitted by Sunday. Okay, so it's just basically what it is, it's something to help you get started with your final web project for your final website. Okay, that'll kind of help you get a good idea of what you're gonna be doing as far as the content for the website and maybe the overall layout or overall structure of how you're gonna do that site. Okay. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and I'm going to start working on the assignment. So page 249 in the book, 6.1 is where we're going to start. Okay. I'm going to, first of all, go to the class activity chapter 6 in our chapter 6 module and download that chapter 6 zip file. So you want to get that one opened up. And then I'm also going to create my chapter 6 folder to keep all of my stuff in. All right, so I got that folder. And let's get brackets opened up. Okay, so 6.1, we're going to work with just kind of that, we talked about the box model, okay, right, how that's set up. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to do here for this first one. We're going to open up, so in brackets, I'm going to open up in the chapter 6 starter files, starter1.html. Okay. And let's go ahead and resave this real quick. So file save as, and we're going to save it into our chapter 6 folder. We're going to call it box 1. All right. And then what we're going to do, we're going to put a couple of divs in here. Okay, so we're going to go down here into the body, and we're going to put 2 div elements. All right, so we'll do div class equals div1. All right, and so inside of that, I'm going to put a little bit of text here. So this is the first box. All right, now I'm going to go under that first div, and I'm going to put a second one in here. Okay, we're going to assign it a class as well. Okay, we're going to call this one div2. All right, and we're just going to say this is the second box. All right, so once we get that, now we need to go up into our head section to put our style sheet information in. Okay, so since we're doing classes, we start with the period. All right, so dot div1. And before I go any further, let me make this bigger so you guys might see it a little bit better on your screens. Okay, so we're going to start, so we have our first class here, so we're going to call it div1. Add our curly brackets, and we're going to put a width of 200 pixels. All right, and then we're going to do height, 200 pixels, square box. And let's put a background color in here. And we'll use D1 ECFF. And we're going to add a border. So 3 pixels dashed. And make that black. And the last thing is some padding around the whole thing. We'll do 5 pixels. All right, so that's our first div. Now we're going to do a second one. All right, so this one we're going to do a little bit smaller. We're going to make it 100 pixels. Same for the height. And background. Okay, we're gonna make that white background. Whoops, forgot to put the color there, background color. And the border, 3 pixel ridge. Okay, so we're just gonna make these a little bit different so you can see what happens when we get them in here. And we'll make that black. And then we're also gonna put a margin around all 4 sides of 10 pixels. And then our padding. Okay, so call this box model 1. Change that in my title. All right, so let's save this and see what it looks like in the browser. All right, so you can see we got our first div here. Okay, so this is that first box. All right, and then we have our second one down here. All right, so so this is just kind of the normal flow of how a browser will render a page. Okay, so it just does sees that first one, then it sees the second one. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to adjust the code a little bit. All right, so let's resave this. Let's keep our same one open. We'll do a save as. We'll call it box 2. All right. So now what we're going to do, let's keep. I want you to watch something here. What we're going to do is basically move this closing div tag on line 23 for that first one. Okay, we're going to just cut it. So edit, cut, or Command X. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it right down here under the closing div tag for that second div. All right. Okay, so to kind of see this, let me tab these over. Visually, it might make more sense. All right, so we got our first div, right? And that thing is wrapping not only the text that's in there, but it's also wrapping that second div as well. Okay, so they're basically what we're doing is we're nesting those divs inside of each other. Okay, so this is kind of a common practice in web design, is to do nesting divs. All right, so let me save this and we'll see what it looks like then on the browser. All right, so now you can kind of see what happened, right? We got the first div, which is larger, okay? So it's taking up more space, but then we wrapped and nested that second div inside of there. So it basically pulls that inside there, okay? And so this is a technique that you can use to, you know, create different types of layouts within your web page design, just by doing some nesting divs and then adjusting the CSS within those. All right. Okay, so let's go on to 6.2, all right, page 251. And we're gonna open up, okay, first we're gonna create a folder inside of our work here. And we're gonna call it ch6 float. Okay, so we need to copy a couple of things in here. We need starter yls.html and yls JPEG. All right, so I need to find in my chapter 6 folder starter files. I need this one and that JPEG. All right, so just those 2 files there. Let's copy those. And I'm going to move those inside that chapter 6 float file folder. Okay, let's open up brackets. And we're going to open up that starter YLS. Go to box 2. And let's do save as real quick before we go any further. We'll save it as index.html. And let's just preview what we got right now. All right, so you can see here we got this picture. We're inside of a div here, and then we got, actually it's probably the, yeah, I think it's, we're inside of a div. And then we got the text in there, okay? So we want to get this text to line up to the right side of that photo, okay? All right, so we can do that. All we gotta do is we need to add a float class, okay? So we're gonna go in here to our style sheet, right? Right after that paragraph style element, we're going to create a class called float. Okay, so dot float, curly bracket, and we're going to tell it float left. All right, and we're also going to give it a margin right of 10 pixels. Okay, so that way the text doesn't line up right next to it. And we're also going to add a border around it. Okay, we'll make that 3 pixels, ridge border, and we'll make it black. All right, so I got that class selector there. And now the only thing I need to do now is I need to go down into, so we're only applying that float to the image, right? Because we want that image to go to the left and everything else will wrap around it. Okay, so I'm gonna go down here into my image source line here. And right before the, right after the IMG, I'm gonna add in that class. Okay, so we're gonna tell it class equals, and then parentheses. Okay, I need 2 parentheses there. We named it float, so we'll just add float. All right, so basically we just added that class code there, right, to the image. So let's go ahead and save it. And let's see what happens now. Okay, so now you can see the text now, instead of wrapping under that, we got it going to the right of that image. And it's looks a little better, okay? All right. Move on to 6.3 on page 256. Let's get rid of those guys. Okay, so this one we're gonna start working with a little bit with some layout. Okay, working with a 2-column layout. So let's see, we need to grab single call.html. All right, close that one. And let's copy that file from our chapter 6 starters. Okay, so this one right here, single col.html. Copy that in there. And let's open that up in brackets. And let's go ahead and just preview it real quick, see what we're working with. All right. So you can see right now we got our nav right here. Okay, so what we want to do, the idea is to get this to be a vertical nav, okay, to work within like a 2-column type setup. All right, and then if we look at our the way our divs are set up, okay, we have one div here that's using an ID selector called wrapper, and that's basically, we got everything inside of there. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump over here to the next page, and we're going to, the first thing we can do real quick is step B1 there, we can add some, just some line breaks to those links here, okay. So I could put some line breaks after each one of these. Okay, and that'll bring them down vertically. So that'll get those aligned vertically. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to go up here into my style, and I want to set up a style for my nav. And we're going to tell it to float left, just like we did the previous activity. And then I also want to give it a width as well. So we're going to make that 90 pixels wide. Okay. So let's save this and see what it looks like now. All right, so we're kind of getting there. We got the nav, we got them vertically placed now. We got a little bit of space here to the right side of where our nav links are, because we were floating those left. Okay, and so that's going to make everything else wrap around them. All right. But now we need to get it to look like the figure 6.17 in the book. We also need to add a style here for our main section. And we're going to give that a margin left. Okay, so the reason being we want to bring that content over to the right a little bit. So we're going to set up a margin, and we'll just set that up as 100 pixels. All right, save it, see what we look. All right, so now you can see we got all of that main content. It's basically we're creating our 2 columns now. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and add some more CSS here. Okay, so we're going to make it look a little better. So step 4A, let's go ahead and add some style to the body. Okay, so let's add a body element. Style element, we'll add a background color. Okay, so that background color 0066. And then we have this wrapper set up here, so we need to set up an ID selector for the wrapper. Okay, that one we're gonna set it up as 80%. And we're gonna center it. Okay, so we're gonna do our margin left, margin right trick. Set both of those to auto. And let's give a different background color for the wrapper. All right, so that one, let's use EA. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go then through steps C through G. Okay, so we're still working in our embedded style sheet. All right. So now let's do some work with our header. We're going to give it a little bit different background color. All right. And then let's set up the style for our H1. For that one, let's get rid of the margins. So margins going to be set at 0. We are going to add some padding on all 4 sides of 10 pixels. Okay. All right, so let's go back up then into our nav. We got float left, we got a width. Let's also add some padding to that of 10 pixels. And then also in our main section here, let's add a padding and background color to that. Padding of 10 pixels and background color. So that is white. Okay, we'll make that white. All right, last thing, let's get a style here for our footer. Okay, text align. We want that to be centered. And I'll make that italics, so font style. Italic. And we're going to make the background different color as well. Okay, and the last thing here, so remember on Wednesday I talked about clearing the floats, okay? So we want that footer to go all the way across our wrapper, okay, left to right. So we don't want it to use that float that we set up for the nav, okay? So we're gonna tell it to clear both. And that will basically let it ignore the float that we have set up. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this now. And see what we got. Okay. So you can see here, we're starting to get that kind of look of a structured website, right? We have our different areas within the page that are kind of distinguished, right? We have our header, we have our nav, we have our main content, and then we have the footer, all right? So we're just doing this all through the way that we're structuring that CSS, okay? Because you notice we weren't really doing a lot to the HTML part of the page. We're just doing this all through the CSS, okay? All right, and by using different background colors for the different sections, you can kind of visually start to create that structure of the page. That's where that the idea of color theory, that we talked about in chapter 5 comes into play, to have a good sense of your color scheme for your pages. All right, let's jump to our next one. 6.4 on page 264. All right. Again, we're going to need to copy some files. Okay, so now we're going to work with some pseudo classes. All right, so we'll do some work on those. Let's create a new folder here in my chapter 6. And we'll call that one CH6 hover. And we need to copy some images and a starter file. Okay, so let's open up chapter 6. We need Lighthouse Island JPEG and Lighthouse logo JPEG. Okay, so both of those. And then we're going to use starter.html. And so that guy right there. Okay, let's open those up in brackets. And we'll preview what we got here right now. All right, so we got a nav we're working on. Okay, so we want to clean that up, right? It doesn't look too good right now. It's all kind of scrunched in there in that nav section. So that's going to be the main thing that we're going to do here. We want to make that nav look better. Okay, so let's go in here. And let's get down here. All right, so what we want to do is we're going to basically turn this nav area into an unordered list. All right, so step 1 here, let's go ahead and in our nav elements section here, let's start an unordered list. Okay, and I want to move that closing UL, whoops, sure it says UL. Move that closing tag to the end of my nav links. All right, so then remember with unordered list, then we need each of these to be a list item by itself. Okay, so we use the LI tags. And we put all of the link information there, the text and the anchor reference. Those get nested inside of those, right? Okay, so we're going to do that for all of these. Okay, so if we save it now and take a look. All right, so we're getting there. We got the links now that are at least vertically oriented, but now we have these bullets on there, which we don't really like. We want to get rid of the bullets, and then we want, instead of using the default colors and the underline and all that, we want to get rid of that as well. Okay, so let's go up into the CSS now, and we're gonna right here and under the nav style, we're going to add a new one called Nav UL. All right. So we do this because we're focused on that unordered list that we just set up in our nav, and we have to use both nav and UL because that lets the browser know that this is being applied to the nav area. All right. So go ahead and put in your curly brackets, and now we're going to tell it list style. Type, okay? So we need all three of these, list, hyphen style, hyphen type. I'm gonna say none. So we don't want any styles, default browser styles applied to that, okay? The other thing we wanna set up, we're gonna do a margin left. We're gonna make that 0. That way everything lines up nice and neat. And we're also gonna add padding around all 4 sides. Give a little bit of breathing room there. 10 pixels, okay? Okay, so we got this set up now for our unordered list. The last step we need to do is create some of these, we talked about like how you can make the links change colors when you hover them and different things like that, okay? So we're gonna set up a nav anchor. And for this one, we're going to tell it to get rid of the underline. So text decoration, we need to get that set to none. Okay, so you guys have done this before. And we're also gonna add padding around everything, 10 pixels. And we want the font to be a little bit bolder. So let's do font weight bold. Okay. All right. So now, if we save it and look at it. Okay, so we got rid of the bullets, we got rid of the underlines, but it's still that kind of blue, it's just that blue color, which I don't really like. So let's add some more elements here. Okay, so now we're gonna do a nav A. So here's where our pseudo classes come in. So nav A colon link. And then in our curly brackets, I want color. Let's set that one at white. Okay, so that's just for the normal link when it appears on the browser. The next one I want to do is nav A visited. Make sure you don't have a typo here. Visited. All right. And for this one, I want the text color to be a little bit different. Okay, and then we just got one more. I want it to have a different color when we hover over it. So we're gonna do nav a colon hover. And let's set a different color for that. Okay. Save it and see what we got. All right, so you can see now we got our white links, and then we have this nice hover effect when I roll over those links. Okay, so this is just a nice kind of UI user experience technique for web design, web development. Just lets the user know, kind of lets them feel like, gives them a better sense of where they're going to be going. Okay, so that's pretty common. Where are we at? 107. Okay. Let's do this next one real quick. So we'll do 6.5 and then we'll call it quits for today. All right, so let's go back to our folders here. Let's make a new folder called button. All right, and oh, okay, we need that. Okay, we need that stupid template file from chapter 2. I forgot to get that. All right, let me jump back to Canvas. Sorry. I'll maybe add that in there. Chapter 2. Template. Okay, so let's go ahead and open that up in brackets. Okay, so this one we're going to do a CSS button. Okay, so you can style buttons differently in CSS just using the code, okay, without any images or anything. All right, so we're going to create a, we're going to configure a hyperlink with an anchor tag. Then we're going to assign a class to it. All right, so let's just go here in the body. So I got my anchor element class equals button. All right, add our href. Okay, I'll just have signup.html. I'm actually going to create that, but we'll just use that from there. And then we want the button to say sign up in the browser. Okay. Okay, let's go to our CSS. And we're going to add a few things in here. Okay, so let's get our embedded style sheet. Okay, and our first one, let's create a body element, style element, and I want our text to align center. And then let's do an H1. Margin bottom. Set to M. Okay, next page. All right, now we need to create that class for the button. Okay, so dot button. Okay, and then I'm just gonna go in, I'm gonna add quite a bit of different properties and values here. Okay, so the first one, let's do a border radius. All right, so border hyphen radius is gonna make our button have that rounded corners. Okay, let's add padding, 1M. Our text color. Let's just make it white. Background color. E38690. All right, set up our fonts. Font family, Arial, sans serif. Font size. (2M). All right, make it bold, so font weight. All right, then we want it to align to the center, so text align center. And then our last one, text decoration none. I don't want an underlined under there, so let's set that. Okay, now just like we did before where we had pseudo classes for our nav anchor links, we can do the same thing with the pseudo classes for this button class. Okay, so I can do dot button colon link. And I'm going to make that one FF. Oops, forgot my. There. Okay. All right, so that's just the default. Now I want it to change if I visit. So visited. I'm going to make that color a little bit different. Just make that kind of a grayish color here. All right, and then the last one is that hover. Okay, so button colon hover. And we're actually had a couple things here. We're going to change the text color. So #965-251. And I'm also going to change the background color. All right. So this will give us a nice effect when we do that. So F7DEE1. All right. Okay. All right, forgot one thing. I got to put this inside of my H1. Okay, so let's add that in real quick. H1. All right, so I got that anchor link inside of the H1, all right, because we have a style up there for it. I think that's it. Let's go ahead and do a save as. Just call it index.html inside of our button folder. And let's preview it. All right, so the rollover is working. I got some funky stuff going on. It's like way up too high. Let's see what's going on here. Which one? mess something up somewhere. If anybody sees it, go ahead and feel free to shout it out. Bottom 2M. Oh, it's weird. It's like cutting off the top there. Trying to see what I did wrong. Bottom 2M. That's good. Oh, I know what I did. Duh. It's just a browser thing. Because I had, well, no, that's not doing it. It's weird. Let me add some breaks in here and see what happens. No, that got it down. Yeah, I don't know why it was doing that. I'll have to check into that. Anyway, that's not really what we were focusing on anyway. The main thing here is to show you guys how the pseudo classes work with that class selector. Okay, so you can use those pseudo classes on anchor links, or you can apply them to a class like we did here in the style sheet. Okay, so again, this is something that you would do just to style your page a little bit nicer. Okay, instead of just a regular link for a button. Okay, if you want something that stands out, you can set it up like this. Okay, to actually make it look like a visual image button. Okay, but the nice thing is we do all this just through the CSS. Okay, so it's we don't have to worry about actually having an image in there or anything. Okay. All right, that is it for today. So we'll pick up on Monday and we'll finish up. We should be able to finish up the rest of these class activities. If not, we'll get them finished up Wednesday of next week. But we'll keep going through chapter 6. And okay, so just save your progress from today if you were following along. Let's see, I got chat here. Good way to add comments inside of the style. Way to come. Okay. Yeah. So Albert asked a question here about adding comments in your style sheets. Yes, there is a way. I'll have that. I'll do some of that on Monday. I'll show you guys how to add comments within your style sheets and your HTML. Okay. So that's good for when you're working on teams, okay, so other people know kind of your ideas within the code. Okay, so it's just a way to kind of communicate within the code of your documents. Okay, so that's a good question, and I'll show you guys how to do that on Monday. Okay. All right, that is it for today. Everybody have a good weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye.